Blair here. Great to have you joining me this morning for 10 minutes of morning calm. And today we're going to take a look at as sort of part two of what we started on yesterday, this idea of instinctual versus reflective thought. And we're looking at this story in the Bible and a deeper meaning to a story, which is the story of Abram and his wife Sarai, and how they sort of start a family essentially, and how it doesn't start out the way we might want or hope or any of that, because she's unable to have a child. And what does that mean, and how can that have lessons actually in this life, not at a superficial level, but at a very deep level of that part of us that really wants, that very loving part of us that really wants to see something out there into the world. And yet it takes time for that to happen. And there's steps for that to happen. And that's where we're going to take a look at how thought works. And yesterday we're talking about it in terms of what we want to have happen over time, what the process is over time, and how we really want to get good at decision making. And it doesn't happen overnight, like it takes a long period of time. But to really develop good decision making, it goes from the emotional part of us, the emotional center of our life, to the rational center of our life, to the spiritual center of our life. And we want to align all of those three. The emotional center, that's where real instinctive thought is. And the instinctive part is like it grows out of emotions, very much like kind of knee jerk. And can that be for really good reasons and really lead to really good decisions? Absolutely, it can. I mean, there's some things where it's just like, no, just trust your gut, go. And it also can very easily get off track. We live in an age where a lot of people will hear, a lot of times people get advice, just go with your gut, just go with that emotional center. Not always such a great idea. Not always such a great idea. And that's where then we go to the rational center. So we have this emotion that is calling us a certain direction. And we have to sort of consult, for lack of a better word, our rational mind. That idea of ratio we talked about yesterday. That's where the numbers parts live, the real quantitative measures live. And then the most significant part, folks, is going to the highest angels of our nature, which is going to the spiritual center. And that's what we want to do, is we actually want to get all of those three things aligned with a clear line going right through all of them, so the emotional connects with the rational, connects with the spiritual, and they're all kind of woven together. That's where we get to make, it's where the decisions are just going to be good. And we may not, they may not be the winning decision or the big money making decision, or any of those sort of quantitative measures of success, but they're definitely going to help our souls just feel at peace and at rest that we made the right choice, even if it doesn't turn out the way we might have wanted it. And the important part of that, folks, is what I want to talk about a little bit today, is again just seeing that as the instinctive versus the reflective. The instinctive being down here at the emotional level, moving its way up on through, and then as a gradient eventually becoming reflective thought. And the reflective thought, folks, that's such a great spiritual gift that God has given us. And Eckhart Tolle called, what did he call it? The silent watcher. And it's in Swedenborgian thought, we would call it the conscience. And it's that part of us that is very deeply immersed or washed in spiritual principles and good religious knowledge, not stuff like God is going to beat the crud out of everybody, not crazy kind of spiritual ideas, but really grounded spirituality. That idea that we're all here for each other, we're all here to serve. Our job is to do the best we can to find our purpose in life as the Creator would have us see it. All that, it's just that good stuff that gets us recentered. And I love that word recentered, right? Because that's what happens is sometimes the emotions over here and our rational minds over here, and then our spiritual minds up like this, like a Picasso. And what we want to do is we want to become recentered. We want to become centered so that all these things are aligned together. And the reflective mind is what will do that. The reflective mind is able to think, well, from a sort of a bird's eye view, what kind of person am I being right now? How might other people be seeing this? How might others view me or view this situation? And that's not sort of a pandering thing. It's just like, oh yeah, I might be coming across the wrong way, and I have to give validity to how they might be seeing it. Am I living a good life? Am I doing what God asked me to do? And the big one, which we talked about yesterday, always the big one, is how can I serve today? How can I serve today? How can, with this situation, can service show up? or usefulness, whatever phrase you want to use there. That's where, folks, the reflective mind is so important. And the reflective mind, I was making a couple of notes this morning. The reflective mind is able to give the generous response. Now, it may not be generous in terms of, somebody may ask you for something, and the generous response may not be to give them that thing, but the generous response it's a generosity of spirit where we're welcoming them into the conversation. We're having soft edges. That's the generosity of spirit that we want to have. And that is very, very, very different than the instinctual, because down there at the instinctual level, the emotive level, sometimes it can be very loving, very true. But it also, in our era, and this is really a big red flag, we live in what one author calls the age of outrage, where people get outraged in a quick second, and then it becomes this contest about who can be more outraged, that I can actually be more outraged than you, which is nothing to do with problem solving. Just look at our political system, what a mess it is. And a lot of it's just because people are trying to outrage the next person. That's crazy. Think, folks, of again, like outrage versus the generous response, the intuitive versus the reflective. And if you want to practice for today, just practice that. Practice like, okay, I'm feeling like this, need to be outraged. And somebody will come to you with an outrage. That's just part of human nature. And just notice when that comes up, and notice the temptation to join them in outrage, or if they're outraged at you, to try to outrage them. Crazy. Why do we do that? It makes no sense. and really let that go and try to think, okay, I'm not going to come from the instinctual. I'm going to come from the reflective. And the reflective part asks questions. The reflective part really is embedded in grace. The reflective part is really able to have sort of this beautiful, beautiful generosity of spirit. And this is not going to surprise any of you, I would imagine. Obviously, over time, the two come together. I imagine that as our spiritual lives grow, I imagine for many angels in heaven, they have the instinct towards reflective, towards being reflective. It starts instinctual down here, goes reflective here. I think probably the angels over time, the two really come together. So we just have an instinct to reflect. And that's where we want to get. But that takes time. It's progress, not perfection. God has eternity to work with. So I think we can be a little patient with ourselves and with others as we get all this sorted out and developed in our lives. So, folks, may you have a day where when outrage shows up, you push that to the side. And where reflection shows up, may you embrace it. Not too much those paralysis by analysis, but just have those reflective moments that give a chance for there to be a more generous response than we might otherwise have. I hope that makes sense, friends. And what we're going to do now is we're going to shift gears. And in shifting gears, what we're going to do, as we always do, is we're going to do a little meditation, little prayer, little blessing, and then we'll say hi to folks on social media. So please join me. Let's start with a big breath and the prayer bell. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I. Be still and know that. Be still and know. Be still and. Be still. Be. Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you, bring you peace, bring you home. Amen. All right, dear friends, a little quick, cheery hello to folks. And again, I hope you have a wonderful weekend ahead of you. The family are going to go do a little, the family's going to go take a little trip this weekend, which will be wonderful. We're going to go down to the Eastern Shore, which we really enjoy. So it'll be fun to do that. All right. Let's get a little comments here. All right. Marcus, good morning to you. I hope you're doing well. Linda, good morning. I hope life is good. And Martha, wishing you a great weekend as well, my friend. Now let's flip over onto New Church Live. Okay. All right. Marcus, good morning to you. Tori, good morning. I hope you're doing well. Tori, Chuck, you always said such a good example, serenity and kindness. Thank you. It really makes a difference in the way I feel and act on a daily basis. And thank you. I really do appreciate that, Tori. And the serenity and kindness. It's interesting, like watching how I did a little service about peace being kind of the air we breathe in the air we breathe in heaven, and sort of the whole spirit of heaven. It's interesting how that serenity, peacefulness, like, oh my goodness, what a gift that is. So thank you for saying that. And Gabriella, great to see you, and good morning to you, my dear friend. I hope you're doing well. So friends, God bless. Have a wonderful day. We'll close with a little note about sponsorship of New Church Live. And thank you as always for joining me, and thank you for being part of our New Church Live family. Have a great
Like
weekend.
Our content, it's funded by viewers like you. Please consider becoming a sustaining supporter of New Church Live today.
God bless, my friends. Take care.